as the introduction just said, I launched my blog earlier this year, and I'm watching all of Hitchcock's movies in 1 year. He directed 52 movies, and he was really very prolific. When I got to the 39 steps, and I dedicated 39 days of my blog to it, I was already up to about 20 movies into his career. That was released in 1935. Who's seen the movie version of it? Let's have a round of applause. I can't record waving. Yeah, okay. Well, I just watched it a couple of weeks ago, and it was very interesting watching the show tonight because the show is so similar to the movie. It's almost identical, really. They just sort of do things faster and sillier in the show, and it works really, really well. I mean, Hitchcock always had a great sense of humor in his movies, even when things were thrilling and a little scary. But has anyone read the original novel, The 39 Steps? Probably not. That was released, that was published in 1915. It was written by a man named John Buchan, who was a very well-known author in England. This was a huge hit for him, actually, and Hitchcock was looking forward, had been thinking about making a movie of it ever since he read it in the late 19-teens. When he got to his opportunity to make it a movie in the 1930s, he reread the book for the first time since he was probably 17 years old himself, and realized how many things had to change to make it work as a movie. Because in the book, Richard Hannay does things that are fairly incredible. He sort of it seems like a master disguise on top of everything else. So he just will. To escape the police, he rubs dirt on his face and messes up his hair and poses as a road worker, and flips his collar around and says, "Oh, I'm a priest," and people believe him. It's almost like a Shakespearean kind of thing in the book. But the book was a very big hit, and in England, it's sort of a perennial, a classic. It's considered the first spy thriller novel that was ever written, Buchan wrote 4 other books about Richard Hannay, one of which was made into a movie. It was called Green Mantle, and it was sort of a Lawrence of Arabia story. Hitchcock had wanted to make that a movie, but by the time he got around to that, Buchan had died. This was the late 1930s, and Buchan had died by that time, and his estate was asking more money than really the studio wanted to pay to make that into a movie, so they passed on it at the time, and someone else made it later. But the 39 Steps is, considered this sort of classic, and what else can we say? Does anyone have any questions right now because the actors are coming out in just a couple of minutes, I believe. Okay, well, let me just mention, again, they were kind enough to say the name of my blog is at hitchcockandme.wordpress.com, and I'm almost through with the British period in Hitchcock's career. His last few movies were all spy thrillers, a lot like The 39 Steps. There was The Man Who Knew Too Much, and Secret Agent, and a few others that were all sort of a similar style. Yes?
Does your blog have any relationship to you working at Decent Comics? It's completely independent?
Yeah, it's essentially independent. I mean, I'm sort of passionate about a few things. Comic books is certainly one of them, and movies, music, things like that, But I wanted to do something that I could really call my own, and I've been doing other things that relate to Hitchcock's career as well. There have been a lot of parodies of the 39 Steps, for example. I mean, it was such a big hit as a book and then as a movie. It's been remade as movies 3 times. Did anyone see? Actually, I'll ask. Did anyone see the 2009 remake of it that the BBC released? That was, yeah. Did you enjoy that?
I liked it a lot. I've been with the play for 3 years now. My partner's one of the actors, and just seeing the difference between the original 1915 novel and this is just it's stunning how different it is. I was really surprised.
Yeah, when I saw the BBC version, it starts out and you feel like, oh, it's very similar, and then it really kind of takes a left turn in a way. But the original novel, getting back to that for a moment, has no female characters in it almost at all. I think none. It's a very male world of, tough guys running for their lives and things like that. But the interesting thing to me, the one thing about this show that is the one thing that the show has in common with the novel is that opening monologue that Richard Hannay delivers. It's exactly the same as it is in the book. And then, of course, it goes off into the Hitchcock land. So, well, gentlemen, so nice to see you. Thank you for being here.
The others are coming. They're
are
slow.
they? Great. Okay, and I didn't realize I was supposed to sit on the stool. Now I feel like I've taken the wrong spot.
Conspicuous seat.
I know, but I wanted to be comfy.
Wherever, yeah. John will get it. He's got long legs.
There you go.
Probably
Exactly,
more
tall guy.
Yeah.
You must be exhausted after that show. I feel like it was a
after
workout
the week.
just watching it.
Yeah.
Sure. There you go. Now,
I'm already taller than everyone, so I don't need a stool.
no, there you go. Real pencil thin mustache. That's
True.
fantastic.
Yes. If it wasn't, I'd sweat it right off. So
I was just saying, it seems like quite a workout, that show. It's.
I've
I'm
lost 12
exhausted
pounds.
just watching it.
I've lost 12 pounds since I started, and I didn't. I've struggled for years to get that little extra bit of weight off, and how am I going to do it next thing? It's just, and the thing about it is, I was saying to someone backstage tonight that you get used to it, I guess, and so your body accommodates that level of energy output every night, and you find more efficient ways of doing what I'm sure cost me a lot more energy when we first started doing it, and your body just gets used to doing it, and it doesn't feel as exhausting as it used to, I must say.
You're also more relaxed.
Yeah.
You tend to, when you first do something like this.
We discussed it like being a roller coaster ride, and the first few shows were like being in the last carriage with your eyes closed and your fingers in your ears going, please let it be over. And then after about a week, you're in the middle carriage going, I think I know what's coming up now around the corner. And by the time we get to where we are now, I think we're in the front carriage with our arms up going, yay! It becomes fun.
It's cool.
I'm impressed that you're also willing to come out here with yet another hat on after all this.
My bald cap wouldn't come off.
Yeah. So how do you prepare for a show like this? I mean, it seems so intense going into it, and there's so much going on every minute. I mean, is there even another show that requires this kind of skill and choreography? Really?
well, I mean, I think it's kind of the most show like akin to a. Oh, let's clap for Kate. It's kind of akin to doing a musical, I imagine. I mean, I don't do a lot of musicals, but like a lot of stretching, a lot of making sure you eat enough. For me, at least, because I run so much and go around but really just being warmed up is about as best as I can get, I guess.
It's like dance too. I think we discussed before. It's got a mechanical quality, like a clockwork thing. Thank you. I had no idea it felt like that. And so you have to, I guess, John said like a musical, it's got that sense of being like a choreography. I'm sure you recognize from out there. You can see that there's things that slot together in a way that a dance routine does, and your muscle memory knows where you're going often before your brain does. And so you put a costume on, next thing you sort of adopt a position or a posture, and you know that it's like memorizing steps, like in a dance routine, as it is much as it is like an acting exercise. It's like a dance in a way.
And we do have about 15 minutes where we go over. We do, before we get in our makeup and costume and things, that we do the bridge bit where climbing on the bridge and falling underneath, and we run the whole train sequence as a kind of coming together, getting warm, and connecting with each other and getting in the mode of the show, I guess. So.
And we also all make fun of Jamie, because that's important to do before every show.
Sure, I can see that.
You felt that way.
Well, we were talking a little bit about the similarities between the show and the original Hitchcock movie, of course, and the novel as well, just beforehand. Are you all familiar? You're fans? You're not fans? You haven't seen it? Have seen it?
Oh, yeah, sure.
My favorite little bit stole and exploded from the movie is the moment at the stile at the fence. That's my favorite
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
that's in the show, because it's a moment from the movie, but it's such a little thrown off moment in the movie.
Us getting our handcuffs caught on the fence is a Hitchcock moment.
That's
I don't
funny.
know for those of you who don't know.
And a really well choreographed moment. I mean, just having, like, I was watching you and thinking how difficult that must be to learn to turn the wrong way and things like that.
And Mariah, the director, is very insistent that it's a tradition in rehearsals that you watch the movie as a cast. And she's directed the play so many times she knows it like the back of her hand, and yet she says there may be something we'll find anew in watching this again as a group. And this particular cast may find something. And with all due respect to the playwright, I think is one of the finest lines in the show is some of those hymns are awful hard to get through.
Oh, yeah.
And for someone who's supposed to be a horror film writer, he had a great sense of humor.
Oh, in all of his movies, there was comedy. All of them.
I mean, I heard people groaning just a little bit when you said that line, but that was straight out of the movie.
Yeah.
And at the time, I think when it was new, it wasn't quite a cliche as it is now. Did someone have a question?
Yeah, can I ask two questions? First, could each one of you tell us how many times you've seen the movie?
I'm sure I saw it once when I was very young. We had the collected VHS works, and I remember going through all of them. But and then at the beginning with all of us. So I guess really only once that I really remember is at the beginning of the.
I saw it, I think, a couple of years ago when I first auditioned for this show, and then I saw it again with the cast. I guess 2 or 3 times probably.
It's a little bit more of an obscure one. It's not one that they play on Turner Classic a lot or anything. So the first time I actually saw it was when I was auditioning for it. And then I didn't see it again. God, I don't think I saw it again until we all saw it together. I might have rented it again and saw it on my own, but maybe 3 times.
Yeah, probably about the same for me. 3, maybe 4.
I find it amazing. We're all movie buffs, and the girls here probably saw it when they were 7 or 8 years old, and we've seen it 5 or 6 times. It's a favorite of ours, and we know the scenes pretty well. And I can't believe that you haven't watched this 20 or 30 times. How do you? Is there a scene missing from your play from the movie?
I don't think so. We've added the very beginning and the very end are different, but generally I think it's pretty scene for scene.
Striking.
I think so.
The other question is, and maybe this doesn't catch so much pertinence if you haven't watched the movie a whole lot, but one of the mysteries of 1930s Hitchcock is it's hard to tell when he's camping it up.
Right.
And the beginning, which you camp up wonderfully with the knife in the back, I've never been able to figure out how you're supposed to read that scene.
I've never.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Well, she's very different too in the movie. I mean, she's much more sort of. I mean, Annabella she's a bit of a freak in this show. I mean, she's so. I like to say I think it's so funny that she's such a good spy, and yet she dresses like that and gets a box seat and doesn't expect anyone to notice her.
For some reason.
And in the movie, I mean, she's much more demure. She's a little bit more feminine.
But the whole
in that.
haddock scene in the movie is
Yeah.
absurd.
And that shot
Sure.
where she's sort of stumbling towards the camera, and then you see the knife.
But is that a genre? I feel like it's a genre we may have lost in a way, and I love that you can have within a horror movie, and not a horror, but a suspense movie. It's a thriller. You have that subtle comedy that's just very, very
I never
subtle
think
touches.
that
We don't
scene
do
is
that so
funny.
much.
It looks like no, the one where she's stabbed. She comes. It looks like she's coming out. It looks like he's almost opening his eyes
it's
and
like
seeing.
she's
She's
gone.
blurry at first, and she comes very slowly towards him, and he thinks that she's coming for lovemaking, and then she falls over. I always think it's really creepy and expressionistic and.
But it sort of starts off
Cool.
with that music hall fairly early at the top, and which I think sets the tone for the movie. And there's some really funny, what causes Pippin poultry, and don't make yourself so
That's
common.
funny.
I mean, that's like some really funny
That's
lines in there. That just, I think, gets you in the mood that you can laugh, even though it's a detective movie. It's really
The
funny.
audience in the show is funny. They're
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah, the audience is great. The audience is actually, amusing themselves as much as the show's amusing them.
Right.
You guys dropped all your lines.
I
You didn't
know.
say any of them.
I know. I didn't cooperate.
Somebody has to scream, "How old's Mae West?" for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, I was tempted to say
Don't.
speak out.
Yeah.
But going back to the knife in the back scene, I still haven't figured out who kills her. in the
That's
movie,
kind of
because
impossible.
It is.
Doesn't-
It is
that
so
doesn't make
ridiculous.
sense.
Because
It's a
the
little bit
men
of a
watching the
holder.
house, the men watching the apartment are outside and they're calling in every 5
Through the
minutes.
window.
And then, yeah, exactly. This is about the only way. She did it herself. I don't know.
She fell down. It was an accident.
She was having a steak. And,
Yeah, she
I'll
finally
get
got to
you
the
next.
haddock.
right.
Exactly. So, they're also, for anyone who's interested, and if you're talking to people who you know across the country, this show is now in several cities. I mean, I know I've got friends who are seeing it in Baltimore in a week or two, and I think,
It's gonna be in Denver in the fall.
thank you,
Right.
Denver. I
And
thought
we
I,
have a tour too.
yeah.
The tour's almost winding up. Yeah.
Have any of you been on these tours, or
No.
you're just
No.
fortunate enough to stay in one place?
Right.
And this occupies this is like your job, your full-time thing right now?
Full time.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Okay, and
Yeah.
what were you up to before? Are you always theater people generally, or?
Pretty much, I did a show actually with Mariah, the director, just before this in the fall at the Shakespeare Theater. I played Orlando in As You Like It, and that's how I met her and got involved with the show.
Oh, okay,
So.
was it in the Central Park or some?
No, down in D.C.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. And what about you?
Well, I've been with this show forever. I've been with it since, I've been with it for 3 years.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Yeah, I was with it in Boston, on Broadway, and here. So,
Wow.
yeah.
You mean,
But it's, I mean, they take very good care of me.
oh, that's great. That's fantastic. Okay.
You always play the same part?
No, I covered my part, and I can play her part. I would enjoy that. I think that'd be awesome.
I'd love to
Awesome.
see you play.
Yeah, you could.
Oh, we could swap roles one night.
could.
Exactly.
I don't know how close we are to time, but does anybody else have a question?
Yeah. Yes.
How many characters do each of you play?
5,000.
Yeah.
But I mean, they count them when they count them in the press material. They count the two Scotsmen on either side of us marching as
They
two.
do that.
So I mean, in reality, I guess it's about six or seven.
Oh, no, I
characters.
think like 8 major ones that have like full-blown personalities.
Because often the
and
policemen are
somewhat
different. We think they're different. They're Scots policemen as opposed to English policemen.
Yeah.
One.
Before I just want to say too, we have to
technically.
mention, of course, I insist on making this clear, that the crew are phenomenal, and I'm sure you're aware that every time we come on stage with a different costume or a different prop or something, there's someone backstage who's making that all possible.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure that we always mention them because
Right.
they're so tremendous.
They're
and,
so.
And we actually had a photographer here tonight from Broadway.com taking pictures of our backstage action, so you can catch some of that sometime on that website in the near future,
Cool.
Ah,
which is
cool.
cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
There's one right here.
Ah, all right. Yes.
How many days of rehearsal did you go through before you started?
Wow. How many days of rehearsal?
question.
We started on the 1st of March, and then we let people in on the 25th of March. So I think that's just a couple of days over 3 weeks.
And we had
24
22
days.
previews before the actual opening night, so we got a chance at least to
Where we
get
perform at
comfortable with
night
the
and
audience.
rehearse during the day.
Anyone else?
We have time for one more question.
Okay. Right here.
There's some great bits where I'm not sure if it's a director's choice or if it's written in the script. For example, that the Scottish Highlands home and the door opens and the jackets flap. And then by the end of it, they're like, we're not going to bother. Is that a director's choice or an actor's collaboration, or is it written that way in the script?
There is a certain framework that the script doesn't explicitly say, he flaps his jacket or whatever, but I guess there's a sort of a world that travels with the show, and so we understand that there's going to be a door that's got a very loud sound effect for wind, and how this particular actor manifests that is up to this actor and these two actors and this company and this director. And I think we played with that a lot because some actors make it work one way, and I couldn't make it work the way it was working before. So we kind of developed our own way of doing it.
I guess I've been in so many different versions of this play. It's always there. It is written into it, but the actors, each actor who comes into it, makes it his own. You see what I'm saying? I mean, it does the same function. She always comes in and she always does her dress, but sometimes an actress is really good at it, gets into it, and lets the wind blow her back, and then shuts it. And they just have different ways of doing it, which is really what it's about, because the show is so choreographed. All of the moves are the same. Whoever, we basically fill in. They spill us in, but what we bring to it is, how we do it.
We were fortunate because Mariah has done the show, Adric has done the show so many times that she was very confident to describe something and let us find our way of doing it rather than feel like it has to be like this. I think some directors who may not know how the show works as well as she does would feel
It
like
has
to
to. It has to be that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you just tried to mimic somebody else's performance, it would be just lifeless.
Yeah.
Okay.
And on that note,
Yeah.
let's end with the word lifeless.
Oh, thanks very much.
Thanks a lot.